Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Welcome back. So today we are going to work on creating collage sheets. So if you watched my somewhat recent, this was one of the videos I did for Carry the Crafters hashtag Mixed Media March 25. And I ended up putting a piece of the Tim Holtz collage paper over the top of the piece. And it got me thinking that, you know, on my crafty to-do list for ages now is to make my own collage sheets. So that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to create our own collage sheets. Now, you got a couple options for what you can use to create your collage sheets. You can use tissue paper. And I got this. This was actually used in packaging for something I purchased recently. And I did do a test run to make sure it was going to work the way it's supposed to, which is when you stamp on it and then glue it down, the tissue mostly disappears in the background so that it does not show up anymore. So that's option one. And I was actually up in Mount Dora with some friends yesterday, and I bought something and they wrapped it with a like craft color tissue paper. So we're going to try doing that as well. And then a third option is napkins. So if you buy decorative napkins to craft with, you know they come in several layers, and I'm just going to show you how I take mine apart. And so when you go to use them, you just want the pretty layer, so you need to lift up the other layers. And I know a lot of crafters will use tape to get them apart. I have never had a problem separating my tissue layers. And so now I've got this piece. Well, what am I going to do with this? You can stamp on it. And yeah, I got a little tear. I'm not that bothered by that. But there is the first layer. And this is actually, I can tell, a 3-layer because I saw one of the layers separating. And yeah, I usually have no trouble separating it, but if you can't get them apart, you can take a piece of tape, tap it, and lift, and it'll lift just the top layer. I'm not going to do that now because, quite frankly, I don't like tearing up the bottom layers because I figure I can use them for something else. So there, this would be the layer you'd use for a variety of options with napkins. And I actually have a video where I was making projects with napkins, and I will leave a link to that down below. That one's from, I don't know, a while ago. It's been a while, and I have a big stash of tissues. I need to get those out and play with them again. But I'm going to set that aside. But now we've got a tissue we can stamp on. And you can still faintly see the butterflies, but I don't think that's going to be a really big deal when gluing it down to your project. So let's start with the tissue. Now, the other thing that you need to keep in mind when you're doing this is you need a waterproof ink. Do not use Distress ink, because because to glue this down, you're going to use a wet medium of glue, and as soon as that wet type glue hits your Distress ink, it's going to reactivate the ink and you're going to get smearing. So Archival Ink, the test one I did was Archival, and it did smear a little, but I may not have waited long enough when I was testing to make sure this tissue paper would work for the ink to dry, and that's probably what it is. Stazon should work, and Versafine Clair will work because it is a waterproof ink. Memento, any of your dye-based inks are not going to work for this unless you don't mind having your images smear all over the place. That's a perfectly acceptable option. So that's okay too. All right, let me grab my Versafine Clairs because I want to do a couple, and I want to do some kind of to use to help finish up that steampunk journal that I've been working on forever, and some for the butterfly journal I'm preparing to do in the near future. And I'm going to start by grabbing one of my big scripty stamps. And I think I'm going to grab Versafine Clair Morning Mist and a block just because that'll make things easier. And I've got my mouse pad underneath because it helps when stamping to have something squishy underneath. And I'm gonna stamp the Morning Mist because I kind of want this to be like background stamping, and then over top we're gonna go in with some colorful butterflies and dragonflies, I think. That is darker than I thought it would be. Let's see what we get if I stamp it second generation. That was more what I was looking for. I mean, that'll be fine and we'll be able to work with it. But yeah, this one is juicy. And so stamped a little darker than planned. I'm just gonna bring over a scrap piece of paper. This was printing for a calendar and misprinted something, I think, or printed extra. And so I just save my misprints and stamp on the back or use it to, you know, when I need something underneath what I'm working on. So yeah, each one a little bit lighter than the last. That's okay. Now I'm gonna go with my favorite butterfly. This really old Stampendous stamp is like my favorite butterfly stamp. Unfortunately, I don't think it's available anymore, and I'm just gonna put it on a block, and we're gonna go in with a bright color because I want to have one that's nice and bright colored. Let's do Warm Breeze. And we're just gonna stamp him in a bunch of places. And I'm not too worried because I'm not going to use like this whole sheet on something. So since I'll probably end up cutting up pieces and using pieces of it, we can have a bunch of butterflies flying across the page. Woo! This is my butterfly cleanup sheet. So let's do that for... You might recognize it from one of the recent videos where I was testing out my Versafine Clair ink colors. So that guy is done. Let's pull in cloth to wipe the ink off my finger so I don't get it all over the place. And I think I need to bring in my dogs because they are barking at squirrels. Now I grabbed, this is a dragonfly. It's from a Globleland stamp set. Unfortunately, I don't know what I did with the packaging. And we're gonna use Purple Delight. That one is very, very juicy. I think I'm gonna stamp it off on there. Whoa! It helps if you put the stamp on the right way. Wow. I was so not paying attention to what I was doing. You gotta put the stamp side up. I was like, why is that so much ink? Because you had it on there wrong. All right. And it's okay if you go like off the page. That just adds more interest with your pieces. Do some that stay on the page, some go off the page. Let's get like a smaller butterfly. Go in with the pink. Gonna pull in some like numbers and words and stamp those, and let me grab something. Let's do some field Notes CMS 396, and let's see, just trying to decide what color I want to use. We are gonna use Versafine Clair in Twilight, and I'm gonna stamp off before I stamp on. Then I want to do, let's grab the little label stamp and stamp that around. All right, I'm gonna do Fallen Leaves. Is that what this one is? Yes. And what I'm gonna do is, again, do the stamp off and then stamp it in a few spots on here. And this one I can change the direction on. There's another label on here. We're gonna go ahead and use that one. I think I'm just gonna stick with the Fallen Leaves again and not add yet another color to this one. Now we're gonna grab, stick with the same set just because making my life easier not to go hunting for more stamps. A number. And maybe do it in a variety of different colors and some different spots. And I'm actually going to pull out another set because I want some different numbers. These aren't, I don't know, the size is not working for me. This is Creative Expressions by Sam Poole, Meadow, Beauties, CEC1031. Got some numbers in there that are a little smaller. I feel like this is good, but this needs some more stamping in the middle here. And I grabbed one of the quotes from Meadow Beauty. Stamp that there. Upside down, go me. One time over here. All right, I think I'm gonna call this one done, and it's bright and it's colorful and it makes me happy. And yeah, as you can see, you can do heavier or lighter and leave more white space. It's completely up to you. I'm gonna set that one aside. It needs to dry completely. I'm gonna have a little bit of a cleanup, and then we are gonna move on to one. I think I wanna do the brown tissue next. Okay, so next up we are gonna do our craft colored tissue. And this side's a little glossy, this side's more matte. We're gonna work on this side. And one thing I didn't point out clearly when doing the first one, my tips on doing this is, if you want something that's gonna be backgroundy, stamp that first, stamp it in your lightest color. Then stamp your largest stamps first, and then go down in size and fill in around. And that'll work better for you than if you stamp your smallest ones and then you're trying to find a good place for your big one that doesn't quite fit right now and all of that sort of thing. You're gonna wanna do your backgroundy stamps first. And I'm feeling like I want maybe the script in the background, but I don't know if I want that same script. Let me grab one more thing. Okay, so what I've pulled out for stamping on this one is I've got Reflections, which is CMS 111. And I'm probably going to use this guy as my background because I want to go a little more grungy, steampunky kind of thing to go with that steampunk journal. So I've also pulled out, I've got Astrology Table by Creative Expressions, which is CER063. And then from Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous, I've also pulled out Eccentric CMS 448, Warehouse District CMS 124, the Professor CMS 373, and I still don't have the Inspector, which one of these days I'm gonna get. Deconstructed CMS 489, and then finally Documented CMS 226. So that's what I'm grabbing. We're gonna start with this stamp, which I think will make a good background stamp for this piece. And I am just gonna go around. I'm trying to decide what color I want to use. I'm gonna use Versafine Toffee because that I know is a fairly light color. And so I want this to be background, so I want it lighter than the other colors. And regular Versafine is also a waterproof ink like Versafine Clair. I still have yet to figure out what's the difference between Versafine and Versafine Clair. Not sure that there is one. I think it might just have been a branding thing. So we're just gonna go across this and stamp a whole bunch of these numbers kind of randomly, and then I'm gonna take one of the other number things and stamp that around like the Astrology table, I think, to get our background. And I'm hoping this is gonna dry a little bit lighter because it's a little darker than I thought it would be. But that's okay because we're gonna stamp with even darker inks on top. And I am going to speed this up, so enjoy just watching me stamp and some hopefully relaxing music in the background. I think I'm going to actually stamp this off so that it's a little lighter even still. And just kind of fill in. I'm gonna use this guy from Deconstructed. Then from Warehouse District, I'm gonna grab the map down here and do our last little bit of fill in. Okay, so the background, I'm done stamping the background. So we're gonna move to a darker ink and we're gonna stamp. I'm gonna start with, I wanna do the Professor. I want him in a couple places and I want him dark and bold. So we are gonna stamp him in black. Sorry for bumping. And that one didn't stamp as well, but that's all right. It's gonna work just fine for how we're gonna use it eventually. Let's stamp this in, and that's from Warehouse District. Let's go Fallen Leaves. Acorn for this one. Just gonna stamp without re-inking. Keep bumping the camera, sorry for that. All right, I'm gonna stamp this one, and this is from Deconstructed, and I'm gonna use Pinecone, but I think I'm gonna do second generation stamping on this one because I don't think I want it as dark as it's gonna come out. So we'll just stamp it on a piece of paper. Yeah, and then stamp it around. now we're gonna move to smaller stamps. This one's from the Professor, and we'll do, let's go Fallen Leaves. Actually, I think I want to pull this in some Twilight as well. So I'm just going to add some accents of blue on this. Grab a light bulb. We're going to do that one in Pinecone. Again, I'm just shifting around, overlapping. Because I know I'm not going to use this whole thing, I'm going to use segments of it. So yeah, I just want to make sure I've got something of interest pretty much everywhere on here. Let's see what color do we want to do this. Let's do Acorn for the other light bulb. I am doing some of them second generation stamping, which probably should mention. I'm thinking I may be getting this like ink on the back of this because I'm like, why are these splotches suddenly appearing? Okay, I gotta be careful when I'm moving it around because I keep sticking it, I think, in the ink pads. So this is first generation stamping. That's second generation stamping. So it's when you don't add more ink to your stamp, for those of you who are new to stamping. And so, you know, if you stamp again, that's third, fourth, you know, however many times you stamp before you re-ink. And it just gets a lighter stamping each time kind of thing. So you can vary the look of your stamp by doing that. I want to use this guy. I'm still grabbing stamps from the Professor. Let's grab Fallen Leaves. I'm just kind of alternating through my browns. I may put a few of these in blue. I think that might be interesting. And I'm not also all that worried about if they're exactly right side up or not. You noticed with this guy, I kept turning it just to add some interest. If it bothers you, then by all means, pay attention to your orientation and make sure you stamp it, you know, right side up. It doesn't bother me. I'm just gonna clean it off and grab some of the Twilight. And yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm like getting ink on the back of this by having it hit ink pads. I don't have a desk big enough for this piece of paper. So yeah, I like that. I like having a few accents of blue on this. Let's grab this guy from the Professor, and we're going to start switching over to numbers and words here. Let's grab some, let's go with Acorn. Sure, why not? And I'm going to do this in spots where it fits in on the round guy. Now I'm going to grab Eccentric and start filling in like words and numbers in our empty spots. I know it doesn't look like there are many, but you know, there are a few. There are a few spots that could benefit from a number. I think I want it in blue. Now I'm pulling out some Elizabeth Craft Design label stamps because I want to add those in a few spots. So I'm going to do that one. Pinecone. All right, I think we're gonna call this one done. So let's take a look at what it looks like. I'm gonna set that one aside so it can dry completely. Let's bring over our napkin. Okay, so I've got out one of the napkins and I went with one of the smaller ones so that we can maybe get this video done sometime today, because it's taking longer than I thought it would. And I've pulled out CMS, Doily CMS 254, and we are gonna stamp a bunch of doilies on this one. And I'm gonna use the Versafine Clair Morning Mist because I wanna go lighter, and I'm gonna stamp this off. Although part of me is thinking maybe I should have grabbed the Stazon gray because I think that one's a lighter gray. Just gonna go plonk. Not gonna worry about the fact that there's that one spot that's darker. And I've got a piece of paper underneath because I have a feeling this is gonna go through because the napkin's so thin. So we might get 2 for the price of 1. Oh, no, it did not go through. I thought it would, but it did not. All right, I'm gonna stamp a whole bunch of doilies on here as our background. Right, now I am gonna grab a scripty stamp. I definitely want script across this as well. I'm gonna test out doing the Stazon gray. And this is a really old Stampendous script stamp. So yeah, just use what stamps you have. Let's test the color on this. Yes, we're gonna go with that over top. Should have re-inked, but that's okay. I can go back and stamp there again. And I'm grabbing Forgotten Garden CMS 481, which I have yet to use. And we're gonna just stamp some flowers on here. And I know I've not used it yet because I like to get rid of the extra rubber, because I find trying to put them back in their right place never works right. Like if I leave this on, trying to get them back in just drives me crazy. So let's quickly weed our stamps. Grab a stamp block, and I'm grabbing Stazon Teal Blue because I really like that color. So we're just gonna stamp a bunch of flowers using that. I'm trying to decide if I want to use another color as well. Let's test out the Gothic purple on a piece of paper and see how we like that. It's a little dark. Second generation might work. You know what? Actually, let's pull out Purple Delight by Versafine Clair and use that one because I think I'm gonna like that one better. Yep, I like that with the teal. I'm testing out Evergreen Bough because I might like that one as well on here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. All right, I'm gonna do basically the same thing. I'm just gonna flip it. This way we've got two different orientations on this one sheet across here, and then I'll be back. Okay, I realized I wanted a couple butterflies, so I went ahead and stamped a few butterflies on here as well, and a couple dragonflies. And I think the Versafine Clair on the tissue ended up spreading as it dried a little bit, because these are definitely a little bit fatter and blurrier than I recall them being when I was stamping. So that's something to bear in mind. Apparently on tissue or on the napkin, your archival and your Stazon works better. And there's one other thing I wanted to do. Actually, two. I lied. There's two other things. First, I wanted to show you another option. Instead of stamping a whole collage piece, what you can do is stamp individual images that you can then use to collage with. So for example, I could come in and stamp a bunch of these dragonflies. In black. Or you can do, let's grab the Professor, because I do want to demo how you would use these real quick. So let's stamp a Professor. And we need to let him dry. So I'm just going to stamp a few more while he's drying. And so I don't waste the extra tissue, let's go ahead and stamp a few light bulbs. All right, I'm gonna set this aside, let it dry completely. While it's drying, I'm going to... All right, so I've got this piece of masterboard done at a book page. I'm gonna grab a selection from our piece that we did. I don't want him there. We are going to cut out this piece right here. Bigger scissors because that will be easier. Then I'm gonna grab some matte medium and just put a little glob of that on. Grab a silicone spatula and spread it out. Stick our piece on. And I'll put matte medium over top. All right, I'm gonna set this guy aside to dry and grab another piece so we can see how our tissue paper worked. Or a napkin. I keep calling it tissue paper. It's napkin. And of course, I've got a dog who now wants to go out. So let me go do that and we'll come back and do the napkin. I cut out another piece of book page masterboard and cut out one of the squares of the napkin that we did. And we're just gonna use the matte medium again to glue that down. This is going to be more delicate than tissue paper was, so I'm going to be careful when I put the matte medium on top. And the reason we do the layer on top is it helps to get the napkin or tissue paper to disappear. And ooh, my fingers are sticky. And so you gotta be careful about sticky fingers because I just pulled up a piece down here because it stuck to my finger instead of the paper. See, it just disappears like magic. Alright, again, I'm going to set this aside and let it dry and then show you what it looks like when it's all dry. I feel like there isn't sufficient glue there. Okay, so now that this is dry, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of rough cut him out because most of this is going to disappear, so it doesn't matter. Don't have to exactly fussy cut him out. And this is a stack and whack tag that's gonna go in the steampunk journal I've been working on that still isn't quite finished yet. And so we're just gonna glue him on as just a standalone element instead of a whole collaged piece. Woo! And I may have some ink running because I know I use distress ink to ink around the pieces. And I'll trim off the excess that's sticking over after everything's dry. But yeah, it's another way you can add stamped images to your pieces. And if you're at like the later stage in a project and you're worried you're gonna mess up when you stamp it, if you do it this way, you know you've already got a good stamped image and you don't have to worry about messing up the piece underneath. So I'm gonna let this dry completely and then I'll come back and show you what everything looks like once it's dry. Okay, so we are all dry and there is our piece with just the professor. Here is our flower collage on a napkin, and so you can see all of the book page underneath. And then our craft colored tissue paper, and again you can see the book page beneath. So that's what happens when you use your collage paper. And then here are the collage papers we did. And this one, and the one using napkin, and then our just individual pieces that can be used on your projects. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me and happy crafting.